I'm your host, Louis Moon, and today we have, as I promised from the last episode, a very special guest, Professor Min Jae.
Hello everyone, it is my pleasure to be here today with great audience and guests. Please listen carefully.
I've heard there was some problems at the airport, Professor. That was a little concerning for us. On the Incheon airport this morning, was there anything happening?
Well, my luggage was not coming out. 2 hours delay for just waiting for the luggage.
I'm very sorry to hear that. That reminds me of the Y2K problem. It happened in 2000, early January.
Yeah, of course, I remember all the chaos when it was hitting the year 2000s, like some news that nuclear missiles gonna launch like that, so it was a total chaos all over the world.
Which actually bridges us closer to our topic today, digitalization. Our podcast has been handling the history of social issues over the last few weeks, specifically on international governance, social diversity, and inequality gaps, and how that changed out as digitalization took up a mighty storm. The next 10 minutes will tie out all the volume of the podcast, so this will be our volume on this current episode of series, and clearly try to see how digitalization influences each problem, and conversely how it attempts to rehabilitate them. So our first interview right off the bat is none other than Mr. Taejae. Currently he works in global governance to intergovernmental agencies. Currently is trying to improve algorithmic technologies. He has began to train the algorithm to distinguish biased, prejudiced information with well-educated, contextual, sensitive ones. Now let's connect him on call. Hello, Mr. Taejae.
Thank you for inviting me. One of the biggest realizations I've had in my work is that algorithms themselves can be one of the technologies that most disrupt cultural integration and empathy. People naturally defend their beliefs and seek information that confirms their worldview. Algorithms do something similar. The raw data we rely on is often filled with bias and unfiltered information. So when this data is fed into algorithms used by UN agencies, government systems, and even international policies discussions, they continuously present content that matches user preferences, reinforcing bias over time. As the expert in the United Nations University pointed out, biased data inevitably produces biased outputs, which can shape policies, diplomacy, and national reforms in a way that may overlook cultural nuances. Real intercultural empathy online requires individuals to reflect on their own norms and adjust values. I believe the same principle applies to algorithms. Depending on what values they trained on, they can either obstruct empathy or help promote it.
Really interesting, Mr. Taejae. So could you please tell me, is there anything that you're currently working on reacting to the situation?
That's why I like to propose a cultural collaboration layer, or CCL. The CCL is an additional AI model designed to sit alongside existing and future algorithms. It integrates cultural norms, shared values, language patterns, taboos, and conflict-sensitive contexts gathered from cultural experts, NGOs, scholars, and local communities. As an independent crowdsourced layer, the CCL can detect cultural distortions, correct misaligned outputs, and guide algorithmic decisions toward gathered fairness. It could also support governance programs and future filtering technologies. I believe technology can help expand intercultural understanding and strengthen global empathy, rather than undermine it.
So it's incredibly impressive that we now have a powerful tools that allow us to look into each other's lives. So we confirm that technical foundation for connecting with others' lives and thus in ways previously unimaginable is already in our place in our life.
Well, thank you, Mr. Taejae. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the interview. That concludes our first interviewee. Now, dear audience, this is the first point. Global governance can be benefited by algorithmic technology if given the right humanitarian regulations and justice systems to work for them. We must still act as a flagship of virtue amongst these machines and hold what is truly important. Let's move on to the next interview. So, Professor Min Jae, a question. What was your common social setting before digitalization happened?
Back the old days, we gather up in parks, cafe, in community halls, or like a bar, restaurant like that.
As for me, I associate literally digitalization with social communication.
There's an important question from this one. So, is this a powerful technology truly in everyone's hands equally over the world?
To address this gap, our next interviewee, Ms. Mitsuki, plans to share her new movement. She's ongoing. With over 200 million followers on Instagram, she's one of the most prominent faces of social media in the digital net right now. let's get right into it. We do not want to waste your time. Hello, Miss Mitsuki, how are you?
So thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to come here. I often talk with people who have a different background as a content creator and a counselor on social media. Because of that, I realized the digitalization is not just technology. I understand it is something shaping how we feel connected and belong. I know speaking up was so difficult, and finding someone who understood was also difficult. Of course, social media has something problem. For example, misinformation, hatred, and misunderstanding. But now, through social media, digitalization connected us across culture. We can understand each other even without language. Something has happened. People who were invisible feel seen. People who were silent speak. People who feel alone feel understand. To me, social media is not just a content, it's a connection, a space that can hurt or heal.
Oh, that's why you're pushing a new project right now, yes?
Yes, exactly. I'm working on a project called Empathy Exchange Rooms now. It's a space where people first receive a short context bubbles about the other person's culture and values. Then they answered simple AI guide questions to reflect and understand each other better. At the end, they give one positive feedback about what they learned from other person. The program works both online and offline and use a budget system to share each exchange experience. This budget reminds people what culture they connect with. I hope this can make culture exchange easier, less scary, and more meaningful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fascinating story you've shown us. So individuals are using digital spaces to heal their own wounds and then create supportive communities to support them. So it reminds us that while technology can sometimes feel cold, it's ultimately people who create warmth in it. So one thing I would like to notice that there are still many nations that doesn't even have a status quo to establish a digital space to grow empathy.
It's funny that you should mention that because the next talker, and last but not least, Ms. Dashka, actually proposes a different solution. She proposes that social living conditions and growing a global intercultural empathy agent is possible at the same time. Now let's go straight into it. Hello, Ms. Dashka, how are you?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing great and I'm excited to join conversation today. As you mentioned, my work focuses on developing education standards and helping students grow into truly intercultural global citizens. I'm happy to share my experience and discuss how can build environments that support both quality of life and global-minded learning. From what I have seen in my NGO work, the biggest problem for undeveloped countries is not a lack of motivation. It's simply that many people don't have access to technology. Digitalization changed everything about how we communicate and how we learn. Most information is now online. Education is becoming digital. Many students in developed regions can join online classes or use online platforms for education. Without technology, it's hard to grow socially, economically, or emotionally. I have participated with like the ISA Digital Trust, have shown real impact. Over the past 20 years, they provide digital education to 6.5 million students and trained almost 1,900 teachers across Africa. It's modular and realistic. They don't try to rebuild the whole education system. They use education to support local traditions, not replace them. That combination modular support, cultural sensitivity, and clear assessment plans is what made this project successful.
Dashka, you just highlight the very real barriers of technological inequality and the digital divide in education. So it's a powerful reminder that simply providing technology is not enough, everybody. We must also consider the environment and capability required to utilize it. So this segment showed us how the potential of technology can be thwarted by real-world equality.
Are there any examples of digital tools right now that you are using or NGOs are using that actually improves education and cultural integration?
Yes, I'm developing a project called the Cultural Cloud Library. Basically, it's a simple digital library made for place where the internet is not strong or technology is limited. The idea is these teachers can upload lessons and materials, and students can download them and use them even they are offline. They can translate it, replace example with their local stories, or even document their own history. Students can also create their own project inside the library, like a local dictionary, a small history archive. And because it's open sources, anyone in the world can contribute. The main goal is simple: to give people access to education without taking away their cultural identity.
Thank you for your time, Ms. Gashka. That was a really informative session.
Thank you, bye.
To truly close the digital gap, it's not just about access, but creating environments where everyone has the skills, the affordable devices, the technologies, and support to use technology well.
Now, listeners, we come to a close and a conclusion. Global governance issues, and from diversity disparities, and from closing developing countries' gaps, we have seen how digitalization has impacted the negative social issues of the world right now as we speak. But at the same time, we have seen Mr. Sewon, Ms. Mitsuki, and Ms. Dashka that there are opportunities where digitalization could benefit these issues and further resolve it. The tools, depending on who utilizes it and how they utilize it, it's very different. Our technology right now needs the right standards and regulations of ethical virtue and human prosperity and thoughtfulness, other than just blindly relying on technology to just assume all of that work for us. This was the final volume of Global Disparities, Bridging the World Through the Digitalization. I was Louis Moon, your host, and thank you for coming. Have a good night.